Welcome to my presentation on my science fair experiment, Eyes on the Road, how different distractions affect reaction times. My experiment investigates what affects distraction the most using a car simulator. I put volunteers in several different situations with varying distractions. It was a small-scale experiment with only 4 volunteers, but it could lead the way to much more. 19,937 car accidents happen every day, and the largest cause is distracted driving. To help prevent this, you can first find out what distracts drivers the most and pull them away from those distractions. Even simply sharing this data could cause drivers to pay more attention to the road and keep their hands on the wheel. When performing this experiment, I brought my volunteers into a quiet room, limiting outside distractions as much as possible. I used a simple online braking simulator to measure their reaction time. I recorded both their individual times and the average. This experiment could back up or contrast other data collections, but it was not based on any. My hypothesis was that being on a phone would add to the reaction time the most, and the lowest would be with no distractions. The phone requires you to split both your focus and your eyes, unlike any other of the distractions. You can use one hand each, and you can both talk and view the screen, but on a phone you need to constantly switch your eyes back and forth. Whereas with no distractions, you can focus your whole mind on the simulation. I think that it will work better than the scenario where someone is reminding you to stay focused, because even if the words are about the simulation, it will draw you away. It is best to have all senses focused on the simulator. This experiment was interesting, and it would be quite enlightening and helpful on a larger scale. If it was carried out in such a way, we could spread the information to help many drivers avoid car accidents. My materials were 4 volunteers, a driving simulator, 4 small snacks, and a phone. These are my methods. First, I introduced my volunteers to the driving simulator. Then, I tested their average time with no distractions. I put this on the table. I had them all sit in a room, one on the simulator. The rest will converse behind them. Measure their reaction time during this conversation, and put that on the table. I repeat steps 3 and 4 with each participant and solve for the actual reaction time, and put that on the table. I then gave each participant a phone, and let them go on social media while testing their reaction time. I put that on the table, and then I found the average reaction time and put that on the table. I gave each participant a snack and tested their reaction times while eating. I found the average and put that on the table, as well as the individuals. I then had one participant give gentle reminders to the one using the simulation. I repeated steps 10 with each participant and took the average reaction time, as well as their individual reaction times. You can see my data table here. Here it is in graph form. So my hypothesis was incorrect. A phone did add to the reaction time the most, but reminders took the most away. There was much room for error in this experiment. A large one is human error. Several of my volunteers couldn't actually drive yet, so these results may be different for actual drivers. Outside distractions also could have played a part. Though the room was empty of other people and closed off, outside sound could have startled the volunteers. Additionally, the average braking reaction time in America is 0.5 seconds. This is less than most of the reaction times, so the simulation possibly wasn't perfect. So, how could we help drivers using these results? Though it would take much further experimentation, it would be possible to design an app tailored to them. Since reading from a phone added the most time and reminders took away the most, the app could detect when drivers were using the phone and remind them to stay off every few minutes. This would take much more examination, but it could be possible starting with this small experiment. On a larger scale, this experiment could certainly help drivers. Developing an app or even just sharing the data can reduce the number of car accidents in my community. This experiment was enjoyable and fascinating. If it grew, it could alert drivers and pull them away from their phones, making the world safer, even if only a fraction. My work cited. Thank you to the online resources which assisted me in making this experiment and presentation. Thank you to my volunteers as well. And thank you for listening.